Lord's permission, it's an emergency situation that I'm
Circulate an email. I'll attend to it.
grateful.
Submissions also.
Yes, Mala, I just sent some.
But Mr. Bill, we have to freeze submissions at some point because it creates such a problem for us when we have to start, putting things together for the judgment.
I understand that, Mala. What happened in our conversations and the dialogue the other day, Mala, I just wanted to clarify some issues. That's why. Otherwise, Mala,
Even the problem has been in the last constitution bench also, I found. Thousands of pages were dumped almost on the last second day. It becomes impossible to formulate. We have to formulate a judgment. If we don't know where
you're not
starting, where a person is going.
I'm not saying no, Mala.
How will
the problem is
rise?
sometimes, Mala, when the formulations happen at the beginning of a hearing, Mala, as the hearing proceeds, Mala, there are nuances that need to be addressed. That's all, Mala. It's not for any other reason. I appreciate what my lord is saying. I'm sorry for that. You and the supplementary submissions, Mala, if your lordship be kind enough to turn to that. And I invite my lord's attention to page 70. Yes, sorry. I've sent it.
Send again.
I'm sorry, Mala. Lordship has it?
870 PDF paper.
Mr. Solar?
Well, it is combined with the earlier submissions, Mala.
So now these are now the updated submissions.
That's right. So,
So we don't look at the earlier
There is
submissions.
no other. It's a running page now, Mala.
Our concern is this: if we allow these submissions, each one of the other council on your side and on the other side will do this, give us. So at the end of it, we will have about 15 or 16 additional submissions. And I can just tell you, we were just discussing, and this is not a secret. When it comes to writing a judgment, for instance, we are in the midst of, now seeing what to decide in the same-sex marriage equality, which was argued. with the additional submissions in rejoinder, rejoinder, when you actually sit down to open a matter for judgment, it becomes just impossible for so many, for us to.
No doubt about it.
Principal, we had clearly put it down that we will not accept submissions beyond a particular date. It will be violation of Article 14 if we permit you to do it and not permit the others to.
All right, Malad, I'll make oral submissions on that.
We have marked those submissions. See, the problem is we've also marked those submissions which we made earlier.
I appreciate.
Now consolidation. Let us go by that submission which was earlier.
But most of them would be an elaboration of what you have argued. You can tell us orally
example,
what
like-
those nuances we
I
can
did
tell
not
you.
We've been
place-
taking notes where we have put questions. We have come up with some answers. We've also been taking notes.
Let me, Malad, not waste your lordship's time on it. Malad, look, I'm telling your lordships what has happened. Number one, Malad, there are some speeches made in the J&K Constituent Assembly which were not part of the original. So I wanted to just cite those, Malad. That's part of it.
No, but even those, now have to be part of the documents compilation which is frozen, which so much of research by
It's there.
20 lawyers, I'm
It's
sure
there,
nobody would have
it's there,
missed those.
it's there, Malad. It's there, it's in the document.
But then refer to it in the document, no difficulty.
I-
Well, the record is frozen as when we began the
Or
hearing.
very well, very
For
well.
synopsis and for
The
record.
documents you can show us certainly no
Very well,
difficulty.
doesn't matter, I'll show the document.
Yes.
Whatever they are.
Whatever documents
Yeah,
on the
no
record, there's
no
no
problem,
difficulty. We'll
I'll
see
show-
those.
I'll show.
Somebody would have filed them.
Yes, we filed them. Malad. Volume 8, Malad.
Yes.
Yeah. That, with what is this? Volume 7. PDF page 102, volume 7, Malad. But where is the speech? Whose speech? The relevant page we'll have to see, no? PDF page 101. This is Sheikh Abdullah's speech, Malad, which is part of the documents, Malad. I just wanted to,
Volume 7,
Volume
page
7.
136, that's volume 7, page 1.
volume 7, yes, but the relevant part of Sheikh Abdullah's speech is at page 101. PDF 101.
101.
Yes. In the submissions, I just put those paragraphs so that it doesn't waste time. But anyway, Malad, I'll refer to that. It's not in addition to anything.
That's 1460.
1460, that's absolutely right.
What is the date of the speech of Sheikh Abdullah?
I just give that to you.
This is in the
November,
Constituent Assembly, the J&K Constituent Assembly.
Yes, 5th November 1951. I'm not editing anything new, Malad. I just, because I didn't want your lordship's time to be wasted, so I only pointed those paragraphs. There's nothing new in these submissions. That's all. If I
The
may
agony
read,
of
Malad.
this change, the agony of this change.
Yes, the agony of this change, changeover became all the more intense as a result of the position in which the Indian states were left under the Indian Independence Act of the British Parliament. The paramountcy of British Crown, against which the princes had been leaning it should be, lapsed, and it was made clear that it would not be transferred to either of the succeeding dominions. There were three alternative courses open to them. They could accede to either of the two dominions or remain independent. This gave the prince himself the option to decide the fate of their states. Following the announcement of Mountbatten Plan on June 3, some of the Indian states acceded to Pakistan and some to India by means of instruments of accession executed through their princes. There were also some who entered into standstill agreements with either or both pending finalization of their decisions. The betrayal of the interests of the state's people had been expected following the rejections of the memorandum of the National Conference, and we in Kashmir decided to place the issue before the people themselves. This is how our well-known Quit Kashmir agitation began. The National Conference once led the people through a great struggle, and once again the ruler tried to curb it, this time with unprecedented severity. But when the whole people is one, and the move it is not possible to repress them, and they do not stop until they wrest freedom and justice for themselves from the unwilling hands of those about them. The crucial date of India and Pakistan independence therefore came when I and my colleagues were still behind prison bars. The whole subcontinent was in a state of high tension and disturbance. If at that time the head of the state of Jammu Kashmir had even the slightest sense of realism or a proper awareness of the danger lurking in the situation, he would have immediately taken the people into confidence. By associating their representatives with administration, I am sure many of the compilations that complications it should be that arose later could have been avoided. Instead of that, the Maharaja government entered into a standstill agreement with Pakistan, and this was accepted without question by that dominion. Now, the next is important. A similar arrangement was suggested to India also, but it is noteworthy that the government of India insisted that it could not consider any agreement entered into by the government of the state valid until it had approval of the people's representatives. While the leaders consistently refused to recognize the vital issue of accession without first securing the approval of his people, the Muslim League and Pakistan government supported the claims of the rulers to speak for their state. The late Mr. Jinnah took the position that after lapse of paramountcy, the princes were completely independent and that they could themselves determine what relations they should have with the two dominions. Throughout the struggles that the people of Kashmir waged against autocracy, we should never forget that the Muslim League leadership had completely dissociated itself from them, and that during the upsurge in 1946, their local party organs had assisted the administration to suppress the movement. At this crucial time, when Pakistan was under the cover of secrecy, perfecting its own plans, and the Dawn, the Muslim League official organ in Karachi, was appearing to the Maharaja to accede to Pakistan on the grounds that he would have great freedom there in India. It was at this stage, taking advantage of the isolation of the Kashmiris from the rest of the world, that Pakistan imposed an economic blockade upon us with a view to starving us to submission. Attempts were made even to excite communal hatred, to disrupt our peaceful civic life. Even in the face of such provocations, the National Conference, I'm proud to say, took an objective and democratic stand. Instead, immediately on my release from imprisonment, I clarified the issue of a mass meeting in Srinagar. The first and fundamental issue before us was the establishment of a popular government. Our objective might be summarized: freedom first, then alone could free people decide the future association through accession. I also made it clear that the National Conference would consider this issue without prejudice to political friends. So leave that around, Mullahs. Then Mullahs, kindly come to the paragraph. The overwhelming pressure of this invasion brought about a total collapse of the armed forces of the state, as well as its administrative machinery, leaving the completely defenseless people at the mercy of invaders. It was not an ordinary type of invasion, inasmuch as no canons of warfare were observed. The tribesmen who attacked the state in thousands killed, burnt, looted, and destroyed whatever came in their way. And in this savagery, no section of the people could escape. Even the nuns and nurses of the Catholic missions were killed or brutally maltreated. As these raiders advanced towards Srinagar, the last vestige of authority, which lay in the person of the Maharaja, suddenly disappeared from the capital. This created a strange vacuum and would have certainly led the occupation of the whole state by Pakistan troops and tribesmen if at this supreme hour of crisis, the entire people of Kashmir had not risen like the solid barrier against the aggressor. They halted this onrush, but could not stop it entirely, as the defenders had not enough experience training. This is the background on the basis of which the accession took place. Then let us kindly come to this paragraph. When the raiders, 1463, were last approaching Srinagar, we could think of only one way to save the state from total annihilation: by asking for help from a friendly neighbor. The representative of the National Conference therefore flew to Delhi to seek help from the government of India, but the absence of any constitutionalities between our state of India made it impossible for her to render us any effective assistance in meeting the aggressor. As I said earlier, India had refused to sign a standstill agreement with the state from the ground that he could not accept it. Accept such an agreement until it had the approval of the people. But now, since the people's representatives themselves sought an alliance, the government of India showed readiness to accept it. Legally, the instrument of accession had to be signed by the ruler of the state. This the Maharaja did. While accepting that accession, the government of India said that she wished that as soon as law and order has been restored in Kashmir and our soil cleared of invader, the question of the state succession should be settled by reference of the people. Actuated by sincere desire to avoid bloodshed and further conflict, the government of India approached the Security Council in 1948 with a plan against Pakistan. The request was simple. Contention of India was that Pakistan was responsible for the invasion of Kashmir and was continuing to help the raiders who had been employed as mercenaries. And it was further said that legally bound as India was to clear the Jammu and Kashmir state of raiders, might be constrained to pursue the invaders to their bases in Pakistan, which might lead to still bigger conflagration. India therefore wanted the Security Council to dispose of the case as quickly as possible in the interest of justice. That's how the question of plebiscite Mullah came before the Security Council. Then Mullah's paragraph, this is the essential background which we must fully take into account. Now I shall indicate some of the considerations which should be kept in view when you, the honorable members of the August Assembly, shoulder the grave responsibility of giving a considered opinion on this issue of accession, which affects not only the present generation of our people, but generations yet to come. Mullahs now skip the following paragraphs and then come to Mullahs, come the real character. Mullahs kindly come to paragraph as a realist, Mullahs, that paragraph. As a realist, I'm conscious that nothing is all black and is all black or all white, that there are many facts to each of the propositions before us. I shall first speak on the merits and demerits of the state succession to India. In the final analysis, as I understand it, it is the kinship of ideals which determines the strength of ties between two states. The National Congress has consistently supported the cause of the state's people's freedom. The autocratic rule of princes has been away and representative government have been entrusted with the administration. Steps towards democratization have been taken, and these have raised the people's standard of living, brought about much needed social reconstruction, and above all, built up their very independence of spirit. Naturally, if we accede to India, there is no danger of a revival of feudalism and autocracy. Moreover, during the last 4 years, the government of India has never tried to interfere in our internal economy. The experience has strengthened our confidence in them as a democratic state. The real character of a state is revealed in its constitution. The Indian constitution has set before us the country, the goal of secular democracy. Well, as we may leave that out, then leave the other things out. Then PDF 562. Speeches. No. Yeah, while the state.